What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode 6 of our Motorsport Manager Let's Play here with Renault Motorsport. And well, we are back today, and it's going to be the Cape Town Grand Prix. Yes, we are back. It's been, well, another week since the last episode. I have had a few comments recently saying, Jack, please do this series more than kind of once a week. And, well, there's a few reasons why I don't want to do it more than once a week. The first is that I kind of struggled to get it done in time on a weekly basis anyway. But the second reason is I really want this series to be something that doesn't necessarily take over my channel, but is very much something that you guys who watch this series, and I'll tell you now, there's a fair few of you who watch it very loyally, kind of look forward to each week. I want it to be a series which you kind of know is always going to be there and you're going to be able to watch it. And yeah, I just want to kind of get that out there, because I know there's a lot of people saying, Jack, do it more than once a week. And, you know, maybe I'll do it more than once a week if Football Manager slows down over the summer, you know, if I only have one series on the go. But of course, if you've been watching the Hereford Football Manager series and the Kingston Sprint series, you'll notice that the Kingston Sprint series has slowed down just a little bit. Truth be told is I've just not been playing very much Football Manager recently. I have, however, kind of got aspirations to get that back with you guys in the next few days, so keep an eye out for that if you have been one of those viewers. But anyway, we are of course back. We are back at Renault Motorsport. We currently sit, if we look at the team standings, in 4th, ahead of Ferrari. We're doing very well indeed. And well, if we just have a look at our previous performances, I feel like it's fair to say we've been doing fairly well. Can we see our previous performances here? We can indeed. Of course, last time out we were at the Tondela Grand Prix in Portugal. As you can see, Nico Hulkenberg came 5th. Unfortunately for us, Jolyon Palmer, yeah, he didn't do so well, did he? I feel like he is going to be a bit of a passenger for our season this year, if I'm being completely honest. I'm not overly sold on him. Of course, in F1, in real life, he's not been doing that great so far this year. I feel like that would be an understatement and a half. But anyway, the first thing we're going to do here is upgrade our parts. I asked people last episode, tell me what to upgrade. People didn't tell me what to upgrade, so I don't actually know. I feel like a gearbox is a good idea. So we'll get a gearbox on the go, because it is one of our weaker components. We are able to afford it relatively comfortably as well. So we'll get that on the go. And we do also have a new part to install. But first, we've got an interview. This is going to be in reference to last episode's race. You've had some time to get used to the team. Now, what are your main worries at the moment? Upgrading the headquarters. I think that is the main concern. I feel like if we look at our team as a whole, the headquarters could be better. I feel like staff and sponsors are relatively easy to fix with new drivers, certainly from next season. But kind of looking at the here and now, getting our headquarters kind of upgraded and keeping it on top is going to be, I think, an initial challenge for us, I guess. But anyway, we can continue forward once more, although I do want to make sure that we update the parts that we are looking into improving, because there are a few that could definitely do with some improvements. Of course, we are looking to improve the reliability of our car. Reliability, for the most part, fairly good, but we have got this new suspension that I would like to really invest into in terms of improving the reliability on it. I did ask you guys last episode, you know, should I be using risky parts such as the engine? The general consensus was no, Jack, don't use them. It's not worth the risk. So with that in mind, we're not going to use the risky engine, I don't think. I think we're going to play it safe and hold on to that. Maybe for next season, maybe I'll look to upgrade it further. But really, it's all about kind of getting the reliability up as high as we can have it, so that we can ensure that we finish races this season. As I stressed last episode, Palmer, not the greatest with his tyres, so that is a little bit of a concern going into this race, and I could probably do with starting to scout maybe for another driver to come in for. Should we have just a quick look, see if there's anyone around? There might be a few options for interesting drivers to have a look at. If we go to the scouting page here, I'm kind of thinking younger driver here, if I'm being honest. Are there any that kind of stand out here that we've not scouted? I mean, there's lots that we haven't scouted, Jack. There's plenty for us to scout. Are we improving our scouting facilities yet? We are. Okay, that's going to be done in 3 weeks. I'll tell you what, we'll hold off until then, because the driver selection we've got at the moment isn't that great when it comes to kind of new drivers. And Sirotkin, I think, can do a job for us if we look at him. He's a pretty good driver, all-round, well-rounded. He doesn't really shine anywhere. He's a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, and unfortunately, he's dumb, which is a little bit sad that he's been given that as a trait. I feel bad for him almost. Anyway, in terms of expectations for this year, I think we'll go and try and get the 6th or above achievement once more. I feel like the bonuses for coming 11th or above and 10th or above probably aren't even that kind of much worth worrying about, so instead we'll go with that. In terms of tyres, we're going to make sure we have plenty of the Ultra Soft today. We are, of course, going to South Africa. It's going to be a warmer track. Be interesting to see how we get on here. Need to make sure we've got plenty of tyres for qualifying if we need them. As you can see, Palmer not happy with his car at the moment. As I said, we're going to get rid of that risky part because I don't feel that comfortable using it right now. However, our suspensions, the new ones that we've built, are pretty much ready, so we can put both of them on our drivers. And the car isn't looking too bad now, really. The engine could definitely do with better upgrades, but unfortunately, the components we've got, they're really not that ideal. So we'll have to make do with what we've got. But anyway, we are going to go to Cape Town here. It looks like it's going to be a dry racing weekend. Of course, we have been doing very well so far this year. I want to try and hold on to that spot ahead of Ferrari in the World Championship. But I can't help but feel as Ferrari find their feet, as their reliability gets built up, as perhaps we struggle to kind of, I guess, get the most of it out of our car, just naturally, because it isn't as strong as the Ferrari car. We are kind of naturally going to tumble a little bit down the pecking order, I guess, over the course of this year. But, well, we'll see what we can do here. It's going to be a tricky race going to South Africa. But, of course, we have got practice to take first. So, as I've done over the last few episodes, I'll join you guys towards the end of the practice session. We'll see what's what. We'll see how we're getting on. And, yeah, it is going to be Nico Hulkenberg and Palmer who are going to be taking it away for this practice session. Okay, guys, so you join me back here for what is, well, coming to the end of the first and only practice session. We're doing fairly well. As you can see, I've got Palmer out on some soft tyres. I'm thinking with Palmer's tyre situation, who knows, maybe we might have to fall back on a set of soft tyres for the actual race, and I already had full knowledge built up of the ultra softs, so it kind of made a little bit of sense. Unfortunately, I only actually gave Palmer one set of the kind of soft tyres to use, two of them to use, so he's used one of them here. So in the race, we're only going to have one fresh set, which is a little less than ideal. But you can see the qualifying trim and the race trim we've got good knowledge of, and both drivers really loving the handling and kind of general feel of their car. So I'm feeling pretty good about what we've managed to do just in this first session here, and well, hopefully going into qualifying we're going to see kind of just how good the car has been set up, because I mean it's in a very good situation. If we look at it here for car setup, in fact Palmer's has got worse, let's just ignore that, but we did have it as high as 94, which obviously is pretty decent, all things considering. But Hulkenberg, of course, I hate to say he is our main driver. He is our main driver. You can see we've got 3 excellence across the board. So he's in a very, very good situation going into today's kind of practice session. But anyway, we're going to be on the Ultra Softs and, of course, the qualifying trim for this qualifying. Hoping to get a good performance. And, of course, hoping, really, that we can make it to Q3. We had a disappointing qualifying last time out. This track, I wouldn't say it plays particularly to our strengths, if I'm being honest. It's a track with lots of low-speed corners, quite a few chicanes as you go around. So, I don't know. We'll have to see how we fare here. It's going to be a tricky one, certainly. I feel like acceleration's fairly important here, just because of the nature of the track. And so, I feel like if we really want to get anything from this race today, we need to have as good a practice session as we can get, really. We need to be in the best possible position so that come race day, you know, when we can almost back up the pack if necessary. But, well, we'll see how we get on early on here. It's, of course, worth noting that in the vanilla game, the track grip, as I've now learnt, doesn't actually make a difference. So we can just send out our drivers early on, see what times they set. You can see Hamilton, the fastest of, well, all the teams really, not entirely surprising. For ourselves, we're currently 2 seconds behind the likes of Hamilton and Bottas, who of course are leading the way for Mercedes. Ericsson, the only car to go slower than us as well, although there's plenty of slower teams yet to go in this qualifying session. So we'll see how we shape up. As you can see, Verline posting a time. Van Dorn also going slower than us. But, I mean, I can tell you now, we're going to be sending our drivers out again here. There's 5 minutes left of the session, but we'll get them out as early as we can. Minimal traffic on track at the moment, which, of course, is a priority. But we need to better those times that we set. Otherwise, there is a real risk here that we could end up tumbling out in the first qualifying session, which we've not done this year. You can see Palmer already right on the borderline. Hulkenberg has dropped down into 16th. We need some really good times here. And you can see Palmer kind of getting caught up with a Sauber. But he does get a bit of a run in. And you can see plenty of clean air ahead of both of our drivers. So that's a good situation to be in. We're not going to be held up at all. And well, we're hoping that for both of our drivers, they can best the times that they put in. 2 seconds off the pace at the moment. Palmer out-qualifying Hulkenberg as things stand. Can Hulkenberg here set a better time? He crosses, and he does. He goes up into 12th. A very good time for him. Palmer, on the other hand, unable to better his time. And, well, he is outside of qualifying, and he is going to be going out in this session. There is actually a chance I could send Palmer out for a 3rd flying lap. I mean, part of me feels like you risk it. I might as well. But, yeah, I guess we're going to have to go for it with Palmer. I don't know if he's going to get around. For Hulkenberg, I don't really want to risk any more tyres. You can see we've got plenty of the Ultra Softs left. Hulkenberg should be safe in his current position. For Palmer, not so certain, so we'll send him out. Hulkenberg, I mean, fingers crossed, that's good enough for him. I don't really want to waste any tyres unnecessarily. And we'll see how Palmer gets on. I guess one advantage of Palmer, if he is to go out of this session, is he would have free kind of choice over which tyre he uses. But, well, we'll see how he gets on here. He is kind of getting in a bit of a tussle. I'm not sure which car this is ahead. But right on top of him, he's a car on the in-lap. It's actually Alonso. You can see Palmer here. He's actually the last car out on track. Can he better his time? He was held up a bit by Alonso. The finish line is coming up. Can he better his time? Can he get into the next qualifying session? And the answer is no, he cannot. A very disappointing session for him. Palmer going to crash out in 17th. Hulkenberg does make it through to the second qualifying session. It's going to be a tall order, I think, to meet our sponsor objective based off what I've just seen there. But, well, we've got to try and make something happen. And maybe Hulkenberg can step things up in the next session. You can see McLaren's really struggling with Stoffel Van Dorn. Both Saubers at the back of the grid. Not entirely surprising there. But Jolyon Palmer, well, he was woeful in real life at the weekend. Crashing out, of course, with Grosjean in what I have to admit I thought was a racing incident on the second corner. But, well, here at the Cape Town Grand Prix in Motorsport Manager, it's not much better, really, in terms of his qualifying. I guess at least the silver lining for me is he's not parked the car into a wall. So we've got that going for us. But anyway, Hulkenberg here, got that great car setup. It's going to be a tall order, I think, for him to make it into the next session. But we're going to send him out. We're going to let him have a go. Did, of course, use 2 sets of tyres in that previous qualifying session, which is a little less than ideal. But, well, we'll see how we get on here. I'm going to have the automatic tyre management on, although I might have just switched it on a little bit too late, which is a horrific mistake if it does cost us. It does actually look like brake temperature's got to perfect. Tyres are cool. It'll have to do. I have had a few people ask me, Jack, why don't you turn those things on? I guess for me, the 2 reasons for not having the kind of tyre management on are, firstly, it's just an extra bit of unnecessary micromanagement that I just think is a little bit tedious and doesn't add a whole lot to the game. And the second reason really is that as a motorsport manager in real life, you wouldn't be sat telling your drivers when to push and when not to push. In an actual kind of race environment, certainly in qualifying, a driver knows when to warm up their tyres. But, well, you can see, looking at the times here, we've been woeful. We were about a second and, 1.7 seconds behind Hamilton and Bottas in the first session. So when I saw that we were 1.6 behind, I knew it wasn't going to be great, but I still am surprised with how quick some of the times that have been posted in by cars ahead have been. I think we'll send ourselves out on another set of Ultras. We've probably got this set and that's that. I think if we were to make it to the next qualifying session, we'd probably be accepting a top 10 finish. And, well, we probably have to run a slightly harder compound, either the super soft or the regular soft, of course, with everyone on the ultra soft here, except Ocon, actually, in the Force India. You can see Hulkenberg in 11th hasn't done too badly here. If he can improve on his time, he's got a reasonable chance of making it through to this session. But, well, we'll have to see how he gets on here. You can see about a third of the lap left. He's down by not a massive margin, actually, early on. So this could be a really good time, actually, for him looking at it, although he did drop off right at the end. He lost a lot of time in the last 2 sectors. The first sector was very good for us, although that is the sector that has the least amount of turns. It's the area where, the low-speed cornering and the acceleration don't really come in and be massive factors. So that's where we lost our time, and unfortunately for us, we're not going to make it through to Q3 once again this weekend. It does benefit us, I guess, somewhat in the sense that we do get to choose what tyre we are going to be on for the race, which, opens up a few more strategies. And as we've seen in the previous few Grand Prix, that could throw a little bit of a spanner into the works for the teams who, do make it through to the final qualifying session. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of action on track either. No one sending out their cars once more. So an 11th place finish on the grid. It's not too bad for Hulkenberg. I guess those extra strategies are nice. I mean, Palmer, did Palmer make it through to Q1 last time? I feel like he might have done. Unfortunately, he's not going to do that today. And well, with no one left on track, this qualifying is going to come to an abrupt end with Bottas leading the way by just, well, 9/100ths of a second ahead of Hamilton, which is not a bad time by any means. And well, we'll be hoping that in this third qualifying session, the order gets a bit jumbled up. I think that might benefit us a little bit. You know, some of the cars potentially having to push that little bit harder on used tyres early on in the race would be great. We will simulate the third qualifying session real quick, and we'll get straight into the race weekend where, well, you'd say there's a lot of work to be done, but work can be done. It's been done before, and it will be done again. So you look at the times, Vettel and Hamilton leading the way as a front two, although everyone going out once more. Times don't actually seem to be changing there. You can see it's going to be Hamilton and Vettel on the front row, Bottas and Raikkonen having to share that second row of the grid, and the two Red Bulls alongside each other in 5th and 6th. Not entirely surprising there, really. Fernando Alonso, I mean, maybe he'll start the race today at Cape Town, but he actually made it in 10th, so he made it through to that final qualifying session, but he will be stuck on a certain set of tyres now. Now, time, a little bit less than ideal, it'd have to be said. I mean, we were pretty slow around there, and I'm going to be hoping that we can have a much better performance in this race day. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. We've got to finish 6th or above. There's not a great bonus for finishing 6th or above, but it'd be nice to get it, wouldn't it? As I said, we do have free reign over the tyres that we choose as well. If we look at the race, it's going to be 26 laps. The soft tyres are set to last, the ultra soft tyres set to last about 8 laps. The super softs last 9 laps, so they're probably 10 laps each. I tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to run on the ultra softs with Hulkenberg, and then I think we're going to run double super softs. Although actually, it might be in my interest to run a really long first stint. So if I can get the soft tyres to last 10 laps, that would open up the opportunity to then use the ultra softs twice, which I think is actually going to be the better strategy for us to go on. So we'll go with that. For Palmer, he doesn't have that tyre choice. As I meant, well, he does have the tyre choice, but as I mentioned, we used a lot of softs early on. I'm thinking for Palmer, it's probably going to be a case of run the super softs 3 times, or run the softs once and then the super softs twice. I think that's going to be the safest strategy. By putting on these harder compounds, I'm going to set our drivers to push very early on, both on their tyres and on the engines. So we'll see how that works out for us. And I think for Palmer, it's not looking likely we're going to run the ultra softs with his strategy. So we'll go with the super softs for him. So we'll see how that gets on for us. I think this is going to be the strategy we go with. It's going to be, it looks like a split strategy really, but it's a similar strategy. The difference being is that because Hulkenberg can make the ultra softs last long enough, he can run 2 sets of them. But anyway, we'll see how we get on going into today's race. Hulkenberg in 10th, Palmer down in 17th. He's got some ground to make up, and well, we'll see how we get on here for the Cape Town Grand Prix. And you can see Hulkenberg actually up into 10th early on, which is good. Actually going to do, is that a Ferrari on the inside? It is. Kimi Raikkonen has had a woeful start to this race. Palmer not faring much better. He's in 17th, now in 15th. Place has been battled out here. Hulkenberg now dropping down to 12th. Raikkonen, he's got some ground to be made up. He was in 4th at one point. I missed his start to the race, but it's been woeful. For our drivers, Hulkenberg dropping down the pecking order just a little bit. Palmer making it up as well. And, well, we're going to set our car mode now into kind of neutral for both. Tyre temperature is fairly good. Really, I'm looking at this situation here and thinking these cars on the ultra softs, they're going to be pitting in the next few laps, and that is when we'll turn up the engine mode with lots of clear space ahead of us, hopefully, and really start to make a mark. In an ideal world here, Hulkenberg will surpass Magnussen. That is what we really need to happen for this strategy to work. We need Hulkenberg to get up to 11th. That would put us in a great little situation to try and make something happen here. You can see as things stand, Palmer in 14th, Hulkenberg in 13th. So our drivers kind of battling it out with each other once more. Hulkenberg slipping down the order. Palmer had a reasonable race so far, although he will now lose a position to Alonso, who was up in 10th, as you guys may remember. And, well, you can see here our strategy being kind of thrown into disarray. Hulkenberg and Magnussen still battling it out. And actually a risk here that Hulkenberg could lose a spot to Van Dorn as well. Palmer in 16th. I'm expecting these cars on the Ultrasofts to come into the pits this lap. That is what we want to see. And hopefully, you know, with some clean air ahead of us, our drivers can really make something happen. You can see the temperatures here at Cape Town are meaning that when we're in neutral mode, the tyre temperature is slowly dropping, which is a good situation to be in. It's going to make tyre management that little bit easier. In terms of the hardest Grand Prix, to be honest, or at least the ones I find the trickiest in Motorsport Manager, are the ones where the tyre temperatures are going up even when you're kind of just in the default kind of medium mode as opposed to really pushing the tyres. Anyway, these cars are actually going to sit out for one more lap, so that surprised me a little bit. Massa has pitted, and actually he's kind of ahead of both Hulkenberg and Palmer, so that's worked really great for him. Of course, I'm hoping for Hulkenberg and Palmer there's going to be some clean air ahead of them. As we should hopefully see cars start to come into the pits, and indeed we are. So this is where we now kind of push up the engine mode just a little bit. The tyres can also go up into just push just to get the tyres up. Maybe even slightly above temperature, but in reality we're looking really just to get it slightly above medium. So when we go back onto that kind of neutral mode, the tyre temperatures just slowly drop off that little bit. But Hulkenberg in 9th now. There are a few cars who have pitted off ahead, and well, to be honest, we've lost a lot of time in this race battling it out with the middle of the order. And the cars who I thought were going to have to pit soon haven't pitted as soon as perhaps I was anticipating, which does leave us in a situation here where there isn't that clean air to push into, because a lot of the cars, they've done their pit stops and they've still come out ahead of us. But, well, for the moment at least, Hulkenberg in 7th, Palmer in 8th. We've made up some places, although, I mean, we should ignore that and take it with a pinch of salt, really, because you can see there's plenty of drivers in behind us, who have stopped, who are likely to leapfrog us when we do eventually come into the pits. And I think for Palmer, actually, it's going to be this lap here. He really hasn't made these tyres last. There's 19 laps remaining. I probably need them to last one more lap in reality, otherwise we're looking at 3 stops as a strategy, which I don't like the look of and I don't like the sound of. So Palmer's going to have to slug it out for one more lap. Hulkenberg should be good for 2 more laps, which is what we needed him to do. I guess it's been really the tale of our season, hasn't it? It's kind of all about Jolyon Palmer struggling to keep his tyres in order. He's probably going to have to start this next stint on conserve as well, which is a little bit of a problem, I guess, for us. I guess the advantage is he's backing up the pack a little bit here with his slower speeds, and that's creating a window that Hulkenberg should be able to come out into. But it's this slower latter sector where we were losing that battle to Magnussen before, and we seem to be losing that battle once more here. Hulkenberg will be good to last one more lap, so that's good for us. That means that he's going to have 18 laps to run, which theoretically should be possible on 2 sets of Ultra Softs. We may have to use a set of Super Softs at the end, but we are in a reasonable situation with Hulkenberg's tyre kind of situ. Unfortunately for Palmer, you can see he's coming into the pits here. He's going to come out in 19th. It's just another bad day at the office for him, although it's worth noting there are a fair few cars that have done a longer initial stint here. So who knows, when those pit stops happen, Palmer might be able to make up some places, because a lot of those cars who haven't stopped yet are cars who were being backed up by him previously. Anyway, Hulkenberg going to come into the pits on this lap, a big pit stop for him, hoping it's going to be a nice clean one. That's the ideal scenario really here, isn't it? It's going to be a good pit stop. Hulkenberg going to come out in 16th, which is a little less than ideal, but there are still a few cars ahead of us who haven't stopped. It does feel like this strategy hasn't quite worked out as we wanted it to. We just don't have the race pace in this final sector. I feel like we will see that a little bit here. You can see there's such a massive kind of pile-up of cars, and I feel like for Hulkenberg here, it's going to be a struggle for him even to find a gap to get through. He's going to try and make something happen here. He has got ERS if he needs it. But, well, you can see here, he's up to 14th, which is decent. Palmer is in 17th. Who is that in the pits? It's actually Danny Kvyat. He's gone in for his first pit stop, I assume he has. He's gone onto the soft tyres. I can't see them lasting him the entire race. He's probably going to have to do one more latter stop. Palmer struggling with his tyre temperature. This is something I've noted in the game. It feels like tyre temperature to me doesn't actually affect the degradation on tyres so much. So for Palmer here, it's better to be on conserve, have his tyres running cool and be having the tyres wear down kind of less quickly than have the driving style in neutral, where it actually feels like the degradation of neutral but with the tyre temperature good is actually worse. Perhaps performance better, the medium kind of smack bang in the middle kind of perfect tyre temp. But I don't know, I feel like for Palmer, it's basically the best of the worst strategies. None of our strategies are ever going to be good with Palmer this season, and to be honest, the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking a mid-season change might be on the cards, and I'd be interested to know your thoughts on, is that something we should maybe look into, changing up the drivers? Would that be deemed acceptable? I mean, are Renault thinking about it now in real life? I guess that's the way to think about it. It's a shame, because obviously it's good to have a British driver in your team, but he really has struggled for us, and the more I think about it, the more I'm beginning to wonder, is this for the best, kind of having him here. But anyway, Hulkenberg's doing a reasonable job here because he is, of course, on the Ultra Softs, which is the quicker tyre. And he has actually made a fair few kind of overtakes, which is nice. And Palmer is up to 13th now. Worth noting, Lance Stroll has made 2 stops just behind him. So really he's running in a race pace of 13th right now. But tyre degradation, it's not too bad really across the board. We've got a little bit of excess fuel now that we could burn off. But this is a fairly long Grand Prix. There's only 12 laps. Well, I said there's only 12 laps left in this race. We're into the 15th lap here. There's 13 laps left after this. So there's plenty of racing still to be done. Looking at it here, Hulkenberg's maybe got 2 laps left in his tyres. So he would need to run 10 laps on whatever tyre he uses. So it is looking likely we're going to have to run him on the super softs for his last stint. Which, I don't know, that's not entirely surprising really. That does make me a little bit more concerned about Palmer. Because he's got 11 laps remaining. Well, there's 11 laps remaining of the race. And these super soft tyres only last 7 to 9 laps. The current tyres that we're on, you can see they've got 1 to 3 laps left in them, really. I wish I could remember what pit stop or what lap we pitted Palmer on, or is there a way to check that I don't know about in-game? Because that'd be kind of useful to know now, because I'd be able to work out how far and how long his tyres have actually lasted him. I think the safest strategy actually here is going to be to put him into backup and try and eke out 2 laps on these 2 or 3 laps on these tyres. Hulkenberg, on the other hand, 10 laps left of the race. I'm going to have to pit him here, I think. And we're going to have to go onto the super softs and he's just going to have to manage them well. Car condition as a whole is decent, so I'm not actually going to worry about pitting for anything other than tyres. We're in a pretty good situation here, though. And really, Hulkenberg, just for the rest of this lap, can just attack. Just try and eke out any little bit of time that he can. I feel like for us, really, now it's going to be trying to get in the points today. Trying to get that top 10 finish, which would put us in a good little situation because we're struggling at the moment. Palmer's going to have to come in this lap. There is actually a risk that Palmer gets lapped here after the pit stop, which actually means he has 1 less lap to survive on. 10 laps remaining. If he comes out on the super softs, he's going to have to do 9 laps on them. But if he gets lapped, he only has to do 8 laps on them. So we're actually now hoping that Palmer and perhaps some of the other cars that Palmer's racing get lapped. That is literally the best situation we can hope for here. You can see Hulkenberg, he's going to be running out on the super soft tyre in 18th. There's a few cars ahead of us, but they are likely to pit. You can look at the likes of Alonso. Very, very likely he's going to pit, in fact. I think it'd be fair to say. Hulkenberg, you know, he can turn up his engine mode now. There's a lot of cars ahead of him on slightly kind of more tired tyres. And I feel like now it's really for Hulkenberg to try and battle through this pack, do some good racing, capitalise on some cars coming into the pits in the next few laps. And we'll find out where we lie. As I said, top 10 and really aiming for points has got to be the aim here. Palmer, you can see, not actually that far behind Hulkenberg here. Did Hulkenberg have a slow stop that I missed? Because Palmer's made up a fair bit of ground here, which I didn't really anticipate. I can only assume that Hulkenberg had a bad pit stop and I missed it because I was too busy worrying about Palmer's situation. But anyway, we need to turn down this engine mode now as we're going to be out of fuel. Although Palmer, on the other hand, can kind of crank up his engine just a little bit. How's his car condition looking? His isn't quite so convincing, but it's probably not worth pitting for. There's 7 laps remaining in the race. We'll see what we can do here. The engine mode, of course, does increase the rate at which kind of part conditions degrade, so we do need to be wary of that. But car condition for us this year really has been pretty good when it comes to the reliability. You can see, however, lots of cars have now pitted, and in reality, Hulkenberg in 14th, Palmer in 15th. It really hasn't worked out for us. Palmer probably hasn't had the best of races. Hulkenberg must have had a bad pit stop that I missed, which is just frustrating, really, because there's not a lot you can do about it. You can see Hulkenberg 4 places to make up if he wants to make it into the points. There is still Kvyat, who is likely to pit. Grosjean also likely to pit. You can see Kvyat has now pitted and has actually come out behind us. So we have made up a few more places. Grosjean's going to be kind of high on the tyre management, you'd think, for these remaining laps. In fact, he could really struggle with his kind of current setup. It's worth noting our drivers haven't been lapped yet. Hamilton does lead the race. So that does mean that these tyres have got to last us as long as possible. We're realistically looking at how many laps. Perez has had an engine issue. That is going to mean that we can maybe make up some spots ahead of us, because Perez, having those issues, he is on a... Well, his engine's burnt out. You can see Palmer's actually overtaken Hulkenberg. I'm quite happy to let our drivers race here, in all honesty. But yeah, we're on the 23rd lap now, or at least the leaders are. So we've got the 23rd, 24th, 25th. We've got 4 laps remaining. Tyres are going to be a big problem here for us. I feel like we need to stick both of them in conserve to try and make something happen. You can see Perez, actually, it looks like he's retiring from the race. So he's had enough, or at least coming into the pits. He's going to be way off the running order. And suddenly, maybe getting the points doesn't seem quite so crazy, although we are going to be relying on some kind of mechanical issue here. And we have still got a few cars hot on our heels. We've got the Toro Rosso of Kvyat. We've got Verline in the Sauber as well. So they're really within touching distance, although there's a chance they'll get blue flagged in the next few laps, which might benefit us slightly. But, well, we've got a problem here because these tyres are not going to last us nearly long enough. We've got to go into backup, I think, really. Part of me wants to tell Palmer to, let the teammate go by. I don't think that's going to work for us, however. But you can see we are being caught up here, and it is Kvyat who's on the ultra softs and Verline kind of hot in pursuit. If we look at Hulkenberg here, you can see he is struggling. Tyre temperature obviously naturally a problem. I feel like maybe we have to go into neutral. The issue we've got is we've got 2 laps to do here. Everyone else has got not many. We are going to lose places here. There's nothing we can really do about it, unfortunately. I should have taken more soft tyres for this race. I should have factored in for the fact this was a longer Grand Prix. I mean, ultimately, if we do get 11th and 12th, it wouldn't be the worst performance in the world. In fact, it'd kind of be in line with where you kind of expect us to finish in this, our first season. But you can see here, Palmer's tyre condition is just woeful. He is going to be struggling like hell. And, well, both of our drivers are 16% now. Hulkenberg really struggling too. I guess the last roll of the dice I have is to switch our engine mode into higher. You can see here, our driver's getting blue flagged. That shouldn't have been a blue flag. Or, in fact, no. Well, he's getting blue flagged after the race, which is a little bit weird. And actually, that is actually going to harm Palmer's chances, although he's down to 10% here. You can see the cars behind us kind of doing their victory laps, and we were getting blue flagged for them. A little bit interesting, that Motorsport Manager. In the end, we do get 11th and 13th, so we did miss out narrowly on the points. I kind of realised that was going to be realistic as the race went on. I mean, ultimately, Hulkenberg hasn't lost any position since qualifying, which I guess is good. And Palmer did actually, improve his positioning by a few spots. Can always hope that a few cars get penalised for dodgy parts and we make our way up the scoreboard, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. So we do miss out on points this weekend. Hulkenberg didn't lose any places. Palmer made up 4, so that's not too bad, I guess. There weren't any crashes really either. There was a few mechanical issues, but a lot of those kind of places made up were overtakes. Unfortunately, however, with Ferrari winning the Grand Prix, they do now leapfrog us in the Constructors' Championship, and it does really look like it's going to be a dogfight with McLaren and both, well, them and Force India for that kind of 5th place spot this year. But all in all, not a terrible race really as far as we're concerned. Definitely room for improvement. But it's our first season. We've not got the greatest drivers. We've got to maybe look to change things up. I'm going to look at Palmer and maybe see what else we could do there. Because, I mean, the issue for Palmer is it's just the smoothness. I don't know. I mean, the amount that I've played this game now, I kind of feel like smoothness is one of the most important stats. It makes such a massive difference when it comes to strategy and what you can do. And I feel like we are going to have to kind of eye things up and just see if there's any decent drivers available. You can see the new gearbox has been built, which is good. But all in all, it wasn't necessarily a disappointing race weekend, but there really wasn't anything to shout about. NBC want an interview. Hulkenberg claimed that your brakes seem to be holding the teams up. I'm going to just say that we're struggling. I've already harmed our marketability even more. It's not great, our team marketability. It's not going to help. Have we actually got any sponsor deals expiring soon? We've got one. I'm not too concerned. Our sponsors, they're never going to be great. I need to look at what drivers we can bring in. The next race is in a little while. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to continue forward and see if the scouting facility is actually finished before the next race. Obviously, I'm not going to do the next race this episode. But if we are going to look at more drivers, that's going to be something obviously to look into is when the scouting headquarters is going to be done. And it is actually going to be done, you can see here, on the 28th. So that's a good situation. We have also got a political vote. So I think we'll leave that to open up next episode. But, well, with the new scouting facilities, we can actually now look at some drivers and see if there's any good ones. Now, I will tell you now, I haven't used Hashimoto myself in my kind of save my own time, and I really like her as a driver. The issue is that her smoothness is her big weakness, and it's also Palmer's big weakness, but she is a very, very good driver, and also she has good marketability, which is something that we just don't have at the moment. I'm kind of curious to know how much she might want. Wages aren't very important to her. See, I kind of want to bring her in as our number 2 driver. I'd actually rather have her ahead of Palmer, just because she has better marketability. She'd rather have a short contract. I kind of want to get her on a longer contract. She's 18 and can be a pretty good driver. We'll try and offer her an 18-month one and see what she can do. I should probably check the payoffs on our drivers. But her wages aren't going to be too crazy, I don't think. So that's a good situation to be in. In terms of bonuses, bonuses aren't very important to her. But if we give her some bonuses for coming first, which, let's be real, we're probably not going to do at all in the next 18 months, it's not a bad situation to be in to offer her this kind of contract. I just want to check quickly our drivers. The cost to terminate a contract is only 4 million for Palmer, so that's okay. I could also just demote him and then put in Sorokin potentially. That is something that we're not going to find out about until next time on Hashimoto. In terms of other drivers, there's a few here who perhaps I should just scout just to get some knowledge built up of them. So we'll get them queued up. But yeah, as I said, Hashimoto's a driver I've used a lot. Carlos Sainz as well. Would he be interested in joining us? Because he is very good in this game. I don't want to say he's overrated, but he probably is. Part of me thinks he'd be better than Hashimoto, if I'm being completely honest. I don't want to bring him in as a number 2 driver, even though he thinks his driver status is important. Although we could just bring him in as an equal status, because Hulkenberg's only an equal status. I'll need him to pay out the buyout though. See, I'm thinking Carlos Sainz might be the better option over Hashimoto, although there is an argument to say get rid of Sorokin, get rid of Palmer, and bring in both of these drivers. I'll leave that up to you guys. I'd be interested to know what you think down in the comments. If you've gone until this point, obviously it's a good test to see who watched to the end, because this is a dilemma that I'm going to have. As I said, I'm kind of happy to offer big bonuses for coming first. The signing on bonus for Sainz is going to be hefty, I think. He wants, well, I can offer him at most 3 million. I'll give him 1.8. He's a very good driver, though, in this game, and I mean, he'd be the kind of person who could really build a team around. His marketability isn't the best, but I think it might even still be an improvement over... it's not an improvement over Palmer. It's not actually an improvement over Hulkenberg, but I think the quality he offers as a driver, I mean, it just far eclipses Palmer here, his marketability. If we just, compare him real quick. And who do we want him to compare him to? I probably should have added Hashimoto and Sorokin... not Sorokin, sorry, Sainz to the comparison thing. But you can see here the difference. Obviously, Palmer has got better braking, I guess. Yeah, he's got better braking and better focus, but you can see Hashimoto just has him beat in a lot of other areas. Consistency is better, adaptability is better, fitness is better, cornering is better, smoothness, obviously that is Hashimoto's weakness. If we go with Sainz, on the other hand, it's still a massive improvement, isn't it? Let's be honest. Do we have to go back and forward? You have to click clear selection. Clever, right. So if we now go and just have a look at Carlos Sainz Jr. and compare him, you can see the difference here with Sainz. Again, I guess Palmer's main strengths in feedback and focus aren't Sainz's strengths by any means, but Sainz has a lot of potential. He's only 21. He's willing to pay the buyout. His contract only has 6 months left on it, so there is an argument, I guess, to say wait until the end of the season before bringing him in. But I'll be completely honest with you, I've kind of just had enough of Palmer and trying to micromanage him race on race. So I'd be interested to know your thoughts. 2 potential drivers. Potentially we drop Sorokin and Palmer. Sorokin's potential isn't that great. I don't know. Let me know what you think, guys. Thank you for watching. If you've watched until this point particularly, get those comments down below. Who should we be bringing in as our drivers? Let me know down in the comments. If you have enjoyed this episode, as I already said, please do leave a like on the video. Next episode, it's going to be a stormy race in Canada, and hopefully I will see you guys for that. Anyway, that's all from me. As I said, thank you for watching. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.